go from there. And I'm going to take the mask off only because I'm quite far away from you guys, and I would not recommend you do that most of the time. Okay, so I hit live. Oh, the viewers went back down to 0. So maybe that error is a real thing. Maybe it didn't look good enough. Nothing I can do, really. I mean, can one of you guys go to it and see what it looks like? Which, by the way, I might ask one person to glance at the chat every minute, see if there's any question in the chat box. Because if I'm showing stuff on the screen, I might forget about it. What do you think? Is anybody seeing the thing on their Chromebook? Hey, the viewers went up to 1. Maybe that's somebody in the room. Okay. Yeah, so maybe it is choppy. Obviously, we can look at the recording later. And it does give you the option to edit. So, like, I could chop off the first 3 minutes of something before posting it for the record. But anyway, what'd you say? It looks good. Okay. It's not like it's not like hey, 3 viewers, incredible. Yeah, it might. Yeah, because YouTube automatically 1 like. Yes, YouTube has the setting called automatic quality. It tends to end up dropping the quality. Yeah, I would prefer that. You know, if it just lowers the resolution, but keeps the audio and everything, that would be fine. Rather than just. Yeah, no other limit. Really? Yeah, if you apparently if you lag, if you're lagging one, what's the loading? Like if you YouTube automatically pauses the video, like the load sort of the next thing. All right. Well, I don't want to end it and then start it up again because that might kick the people off. Whenever I post this for real, I'll just cut off the first 3 minutes. Let's begin, and we'll see how it goes. This is not a special event. Like I said, I want to do this once a week and just have a live thing once a week. So it's not like this is the big one that we have to make it perfect. This is just another little thing that we're going to introduce some class material. So if it's not perfect, that's okay. If it's not there at all and you just can't watch it, then I'll record one later. But let's see what happens. So this is second period on Wednesday, and we're going to introduce a project. I put a post on Google Classroom that has a couple of things on it. So let's see here. We're going to make a trivia game with all the stuff from quarter 1. It's going to have HTML. Yeah, it's just far behind, I think. It's going to have HTML, not a ton actually, but a lot of basic stuff, and a few tags we haven't seen, like the div, the div tag, which is kind of does nothing on its own, but it's really useful to put things into little containers and mess with them. And a good amount of JavaScript. Some of it is pre-made for you in a little template, and others you'll have to wrangle yourself. Quarter one, we did JavaScript, and some of you guys were great, and you sort of remembered Ms. Cook's class, the intro stuff, and some of you were kind of starting from scratch and just doing one function, and that's okay. This will be a different way to look at it with some pre-made stuff, and you can sort of mess with what's already there rather than typing a whole function from scratch. And then this one has something new, which is CSS. Okay, CSS was in some of the projects. A lot of you guys would do style tags, where instead of setting one thing, like here's what this text is or here's what this button is, you can set a rule for like here's what every piece of text is or what every button is, or those of a certain type. And so some of you guys did that in HTML, others did it in a CSS file separately, but it's sort of a basic thing that we all need to learn. So this is going to encompass those things, plus one more maybe that we'll see soon. And when you get to this page with the link, it's going to say you can start with this build tutorial, which is what you should do once you get started. And it says, hey, copy this into a file and then copy this thing into a file, and kind of give yourself the basics. It also has a little explanation of some concepts, like what we're going to do. Well, let me show what it looks like first. Here's a live example of once you go through that tutorial and once you copy the stuff and arrange it, you'll have this. So this is not like super complicated or beautiful. This is just what you'll start with. And it says, welcome to our game. You hit start, and then it has a multiple choice question with 4 possibilities. You click one, it tells you right or wrong, and then there's a timer, and it gives you a few seconds before it goes to the next one. For this one, let's choose the right answer. It says way to go, and then it changes color. It waits a few seconds. It goes to the next one, etc., etc. So once you go through that tutorial, you'll end up with this, which is sort of pre-filled template with a couple questions, a couple colors, and so on. But you're going to change that. Like you're going to change the color and the design and the way it works just based on this template that's already there for you. Now, let me show you what it looks like in the code. So I did one that was okay, this is a Replit where I went through that tutorial and copied the stuff, and it's got some HTML, not a ton, it's only 46 lines. It's got some JavaScript, which has some functions, like remember you did a function to show a picture or change some text or take some input. It has those, and each one is just like 6 or 7 lines. It's nothing crazy, but it has functions that are when you click, or when you load up a new question, or when you get it wrong, or etc. And then it has a little bit of CSS that sets the style, the margins, the colors, and so on. A lot of it is self-explanatory. Even if you've never seen CSS in your life, you can look at it and go, oh yeah, I get what that is. Okay. By the way, I had somebody email me today. Somebody was doing the Code HS, and they were asking about the RGB stuff. One of the Code HS lessons was asking you to mess with some RGB values where, unlike this is just using decimal numbers, but the one in Code HS was using hexadecimal, where it's like each digit is A through F, and the student had some questions about that, and it was kind of a cool thing because we're going to learn, we're going to see a little bit of other number systems in this course. We're going to see some hexadecimal where it's 1 through 16. We're going to see some binary where it's just 0 and 1. And those are kind of fun if you don't have the background and to learn a little bit about different numbers. But anyway, the stuff that we're doing here is more complicated than quarter one, but it is the same stuff. So for example, when you get a question right or get a question wrong, and then it shows a new screen, it's not going to a new page. Okay, the URL is the same. The HTML file is only one HTML file. It's not going to a new page the way a link does. What it's doing is just hiding the question you did and then showing the new question, which is what we did, at the end of quarter one. We had the thing where it was like click a button and show an image, or click a button and hide an image, or get rid of some text and replace it with other text. This is exactly the same thing, and sometimes it's exactly the same function, literally, the get element by ID or something like that. So even though this is a little more visually organized and impressive in a few ways, it is a lot of the same stuff and same concepts as we did in quarter one. So when you get to CSS and you're changing color and font and borders, you may not have done that, but you've done it for individual items, and now doing it for the whole page is one step further, but it's really the same idea. Let me check, see if there's anything in the chat. If any of you guys are following along and you see it, let me know. So that's the assignment, is to go through this template tutorial. It'll tell you to copy certain things. It'll explain what they are. And then you'll end up with this that you can work with and replace the content with your own, or replace the colors and the look and everything else. Now, let's get to the other part of it, which is that this is a group thing. So you guys are going to be in a group of 3, okay? I don't want more than that. If we have a group of 5 or 6, that'd be too many. Maybe we'll have a group of 2 or something if the people want that, or if the numbers work out, but I'd prefer 3 for 99% of groups. And if you click this link, it has some roles. So the plan for this course in general is that we're going to do some bigger projects, more complicated projects, and build up to some professional type stuff, where if you were in a real programming environment, maybe for a school or business or government, you would have a role, you would have a time limit, you would have a target audience, and all these things. This one, we're starting small. Okay, for example, your target audience is each other. At the end of the quarter, you're going to show these games to another student, maybe in this class or maybe in another class. But that's easy because you know what they know and you know what their skills are. If we had a target audience of, for example, older people, well, then you'd have to think about, well, what skills do they have, or do I have to take into account their eyesight or their unfamiliarity with this kind of technology. You don't have to worry too much about that for this one because you're making it for each other. You know what device they have, they're on a Chromebook, and so on. But we're going to start with 3 roles, so let me cover that. You've got the code lead. The person in this role is going to do most of the JavaScript and most of the HTML, which means you should be good at looking at the template and figuring out what it's doing, and then messing with it, adding new things. For example, you can add sound, you can add animations, you can add stuff like that. And making those things connect to each other. So having the JavaScript file, correctly loaded by the HTML file, or One thing I haven't mentioned is that you store the questions on an external database. In the example, they store it in a Google Sheet, which is kind of cool. I think it's here. They store it in a Google Sheet, and then those get loaded into the display. So you'll have to mess with that a little bit. So the team lead, or the code lead, is somebody who maybe you were good at that stuff in quarter one, maybe you remember JavaScript from intro, maybe you like learning that stuff. Okay. The quiz lead is the person who writes the questions, deals with the topic. So for example, your group is going to choose a topic. You're going to say, oh, we're going to make questions about video games, or we're going to make questions about Pokemon or fast food or our favorite baseball players, whatever you want. But you should pick a theme. I don't want random questions. And you should make sure that these questions are understandable, that somebody can read it and it's got the right grammar and the sentence makes sense and the answers fit. So that's one thing. And they don't conflict with each other. You don't want to have like one question give away the answer to the next one, or ask the same thing as the next one, or contradict another one. And you want to make them sort of all kind of, you know, build up to something. So you might like start with easy ones and end with hard ones or something like that. So if you are good at trivia, keeping track of topics and information, if you're good at writing, maybe you'll be the quiz. I don't know why I keep moving things around. Okay. And then the final job is the design lead. You're going to choose how it looks, which means you should have a good sense of color, contrast, text. A lot of people in quarter one had some trouble with that. I always, told people to change the background and make it readable and get the right level of contrast and make the text the right size and all that good stuff. If you're on that and you really get it and you can look at a web page or an app or something and you have a sense of whether it's accessible, whether it's functional, maybe this is for you. This is also using CSS, which maybe you've used that before. Maybe you've learned it in quarter one on your own or through CodeHS. If you know CSS, maybe this role is for you. Okay, so they overlap. The code lead is not literally the only person to write code, and the quiz lead isn't literally the only person to contribute questions. Of course, you can, share those things. And obviously, they must go together. So if your theme is like spooky Halloween stuff, then the design should fit with that. It shouldn't be like bright blue Comic Sans, Whatever the team does, it should kind of fit together. So here's the plan. Next class, which is, Friday for us, I'll give you like a little contract and you'll sign and say, yes, we're going to be in this group doing this topic and I'm going to do this specific job. And you're sort of, commit to that. But today I want you to think about it, talk to people, ask me, look at the project page, look at the example, think about topics, look into how they would work, and then all you have to do today is just make a little reply on here and say, hey, me and Bob are doing what would be a good topic? Beyblades. Okay. And then that's it. Okay. If you chat with somebody who's in the room, great. If you chat with somebody who's at home, that's fine. Any group can include any amount of, people from either section. And if you don't choose groups, I'll assign them. I'll say, hey, why don't you three guys work together? But I'll give you a chance first to do whatever you want on that and choose whatever you want on here.
I feel like, after this knowing, when I try to check the team member roles stuff, it says that
yes, sir.
I'll check on that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm going to end the stream because I don't want these to be super long. Whenever people watch it later, I don't want them to have to click on a 50-minute video. But a 15-minute video, maybe. I'll check. So anyway, that's enough for now. Check the post on Google Classroom. Check the video. Check the docs I linked. And we will get started today. Officially sign up on Friday for this class. Thanks.